What would Abraham Maslow, the founder of Self Actualisation Psychology, the author of The Father Reaches for Human Nature, and this handsome gentleman hiding behind his own work think of you being fake like your father? I have broken down the fakeness that you witnessed in your childhood story into 4 distinct patterns: the people pleaser, the tough guy bully, the moral hypocrite, and the grumbling loser archetypal paradigms. I'm going to show you how to heal all 4 of them and finally become more of a self-actualizing individual according to these 14 traits of self-actualization as outlined by Maslow in Toward a Psychology of Being. And we're going to do this in about 20 minutes or so. 30-second disclaimer if you've never seen me before. I'm going to talk about fathers in particular in this video because it's one example that I can carry all the way through rather than saying your mother. Right? Not your mother, I'm not trying to get at you, but rather than saying if you had a fake mother or you had a fake sister or a fake uncle, it doesn't matter. The point of this video is it's the principle of emulating and replicating the non-self-actualizing fake energy that you grew up in as a child. It's this question on the screen: how to stop being conditioned by fear, living in fear if you were raised in it. This is the 3rd of 4 videos in a mini-series on my channel, episodes 201, 202, 203, 204, from money to God to self-actualization and authenticity and to relationships. I'm breaking this one question down of fear and overcoming the family fear from 4 different quadrants of interrogation or introspection or whatever we're doing here. That's the YouTube intro. God, I hate doing YouTube introductions. If you've been watching me for years, I hate doing this. I'd rather just talk to you like a normal human being. But attention spans are what they are. 50% of people have left. Not editing the video. I know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to give you a gift. Please pay attention. I'm going to help you break something once and for all. The 14 values of self-actualization, that's where we're going to start, and then we're going to break down these 4 particular paradigms of people pleaser, which then heals ultimately into the kind king, the tough guy bully, who evolves into the well-boundaried warrior, the moral hypocrite, who evolves into the work in progress, and the grumbling loser, who evolves into Mr. Follow-through. Again, you can replace all of these examples from father to mother, and if you're a woman watching this video, this isn't just for men. I know you don't want to become a man, but you can just replace the same paradigms and switch out the genders. We're all adults here. We can all make the weaving between the lines. Let's start with the 14 principles of self-actualization, as outlined by Maslow in the 50s and the 60s. They are, quote, 14 values. Please pay attention. These are the opposite of probably what you saw your father doing when you were growing up. Was he whole, perfect, complete? Did he stand for justice? Was he alive? Did he stand for richness? Was he into honesty? Was he into beauty? Was he into goodness? Was he into uniqueness? Was he into effortlessness? Was he playful? Was he truthful, honest, and self-sufficient? These are the 14 values here. You can see them on the screen. They are the 14 classic traits of the self-actualizer. And many of our fathers, unfortunately, did not live up to these values. We were not role modeled a healthy, authentic, masculine image. Many of us don't know what that is even today, but there are 4 main patterns that we can break down. We'll start with the people pleaser. The people pleaser paradigm is fundamentally a man who is too afraid to be his authentic self, so he defends himself preemptively from the environment by being a nice guy. The people-pleasing father does not stand up to the mother when it would be appropriate, does not stand up to the boss, and definitely doesn't stand up to the world. He can barely stand up to himself. Little aside before we go deeper into the video, I'm not blaming your father. I'm not trying to encourage us all to shadowbox our literal parents. I'm not trying to encourage hatred or venom towards your father figure. We can have this conversation from a place of understanding. Our fathers are ultimately flawed men, in the same way that we're flawed individuals, and it's just separating out the conversation. I'm not trying to encourage you to mobilize a false anger by having this adolescent rebellion towards why daddy was a bad man. That's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to give somewhat objectively measured structural feedback about how to go from the lowest expression of any archetypal fakeness into a more authentic or self-actualized version of the same paradigm. Just an aside, there's so much I'm trying to do in about 20 minutes, so please just bear with me. The people-pleaser paradigm. If you had a father who was a people-pleaser and he was a nice guy, then the ultimate evolution for you as an individual is to move towards the idea of being a kind king. From people-pleaser to kind king. The kind king is the highest expression of the people-pleaser because he is a genuinely good man. He takes responsibility. He takes ownership. He looks after the family and the people he cares about. The people pleaser pretends to do the same, but it's not coming from a place of integrity or a grounded place of appropriate self-responsibility. The people pleaser defensively goes and does things out in the world under the veneer of being helpful, but the kind king is someone who sees several steps ahead and has a plan for goodness which he systematizes through systems, structures, and ultimately a general principle of I'm a good person, I'm going to do good things. But, crucially, here's a defining trait that's different from the people pleaser. The kind king knows how to say no. The kind king, because he operates from a deeper value system, he can know when someone in the outer world, maybe the wife that he's dating, or maybe the wife that he's married to, or the girlfriend he's dating, again, there's many different stages here. The kind king, archetypally speaking, whether it's girlfriend or wife, or whether it's a responsibility to a company, or whether it's a responsibility to a wider community network, he knows in relationship that he cannot say yes to every individual and not hurt their feelings if he really wants to be an honest and high integrity man. You have to be willing to upset people in the short term to be able to follow long-term moral values. The people pleaser, unfortunately, due to trauma and due to a variety of unsafety, usually in childhood stories, if your father had an unsafe childhood, he may have developed a people pleaser survival strategy. He is unlikely to have a firm set of moral values which he is willing to live by and also then take blows from the world in defense of. The people pleaser isn't ready to take blows from the world. The passivity that takes over the people pleaser's mind is one of threat, one of fear, and ultimately one of cowardice. The kind king isn't cowardly when he says yes, it's because he really wants to do something, or he doesn't want to do something, but he knows it's morally good to do the thing anyway. And if he does say no, he says no because he knows that he serves a deeper moral principle, and everyone that he cares about will benefit from that short-term no that maybe upsets the child, or the wife, or the community member, or the employee. He says the no because he can see further than that immediate emotions matter the most, or no conflict should come about. That's the first paradigm. I'm going to give a few minutes on each of these paradigms, but as I go through the next 3 of these archetypal evolutions, please pay attention to the journey behind the scenes. You are not your father. You need not repeat the same inauthentic patterns that you saw growing up. Every father has a mix of these 4 main patterns that I'm sharing in this video. Some of them may be particularly strong on one, particularly weak on another, but in general, a weak man will express his weakness in multiple domains, and his character will have overcharges and undercharges. He will be a swinging state because he is not centered. Case in point, the second paradigm that we're healing from going to fake to more authentic is the tough guy bully into the well-boundaried warrior. The tough guy bully is almost the opposite of the people pleaser. If the people pleaser is too passive and too timid and puts on a fake smile and says, yes, I can't wait to do that. Oh no, it's no problem at all. I'm okay to take this out. I'm okay to do this. Yes, of course I can work late. No problem at all, boss. The tough guy bully, he really goes into the energy of, I'm not doing that. Who do you think I am? Don't you know how long I've been working here for? Don't you know that I'm the man of the house? You do what I say, not what I do. That kind of pattern, right? That kind of pattern of the tough guy bully is ultimately the overcharged opposite of the people-pleasing weak father figure. But the tough guy bully, he is still a weak father figure. A much healthier version of that same assertive, penetrative energy is the well-boundaried warrior. The warrior who knows when to take the sword out of the sheath, to cut down some opposition, to cut down something which is threatening, but fundamentally not start stabbing people who don't need to be stabbed. The well-boundaried warrior knows when to put the sword back into the sheath, knows it is not appropriate to bully and abuse and hurt his own children. And God forbid his own wife or his own girlfriend. He knows to not be cutting off heads, because he doesn't need to overcharge and overcompensate for his interior feeling of weakness by putting on a great arms folded show of force about how much of a you-know-what he is, a big you-know-what he has, and he wants to swing it all the way around the world and hit everyone's heads off on the way. That is an old pattern. One of the challenges between these first 2 patterns of the fake father example is that there's very few examples of being healthy in the middle. You have to start weaving the archetypal possibilities together. The people pleaser, and the tough guy bully on this unhealthy side of the spectrum, and the kind king and the well-boundaried warrior over here, start weaving them together. What would it mean for you to be a well-boundaried warrior and also be a kind king? Two different archetypal qualities here. It's almost going back to King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, the classic Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette paradigm, which I've recommended many times over on this channel, but it's not the exact same thing. For you to go from just overcharged to undercharged or undercharged to overcharged isn't the point of this video. To become a more authentic individual, you take the principle and you elevate it to a higher expression of consciousness, to be a kind and somewhat leaned back, passive individual, to be receptive or to be surrendered. Those are higher words. To be cowardly, to be passive, to be receptive, to be surrendered. The language goes up. If I were to make another example of the tough guy bully being bullying out there, bullying to aggressive, to assertive, to principled and directional. Very big difference in those words. The synonyms link back towards a more grounded and centered point. They also evolve up in terms of the consciousness of any particular expression. I'm not going to expand too much on the exact ways that each of these archetypes can manifest because it is a summary video, but again, two basic examples weave together the healthy opposites. What about the third example for this video? I have called out the moral hypocrite, and on the other end of the spectrum, we have the work in progress. Think back to the example you saw from your father when you were growing up. Did he rely upon words that covered his actions? Could you see moments when he would say to a family friend or say to a teacher at school that I am this way and I believe in these things, maybe religiously, maybe in terms of business, maybe in terms of sensuality or romantic situations? He would say to the world that he's one type of man, but you knew, because you lived with him, that he was a very different type of man. That is the moral hypocrite. It's a very low-grade form of father consciousness. At least it's an attempt to have moral values and moral principles, but they are flat words that fall off the tongue and land at the feet of strangers that he's trying to impress. It's just not true. One of the frustrations for many of the men that I've worked with who've been raised by moral hypocrite fathers is that they struggle to not only form their own value system because they have this sour taste in their mouth of having values thrown against them, but then there's this disconnect to the father not actually having values. Not only do they, struggle to form the values, the second thing is they lack the conviction. If you were raised by a morally hypocritical father, to develop that skill of having conviction when you're not a perfect individual is very, very challenging. Often boys, but also girls who are raised by hypocritical fathers will swing into perfectionism that will be unsustainable, and then they'll have shame-based attacks towards low self-esteem and victimization of one form or another. The solution is to become the work in progress. A healthy, secure man is capable of being a work in progress. His words and his actions more or less align, more or less all of the time. He won't be perfect and he knows it. You might live by a principle of telling the truth and working hard and showing up early and on time, but sometimes, as a work-in-progress man, you will lie. You will be lazy and you're going to be late for a meeting that you shouldn't have been late for because you spent too much time on your phone. How do you reconcile this? If you're following the inauthentic, unactualized vision of your morally hypocritical father, you would overcharge and lie and lie and lie, and you double down upon, well, you know, this is an exception, and I'm all like this, and I'm always truthful, I always work hard, and I'm always on time, and and I can't believe this happened. Maybe you go into tough guy energy, or maybe you weave in the psychology of the people pleaser, and you start apologizing your way out of your own inadequacies. But the work in progress man, if he's late for the meeting, he says directly and with genuine humility, I'm sorry for being late for this meeting. It's inexcusable. I spent too much time on my phone. Or if you don't want to give away all the details, I'm sorry I'm late for the meeting. I'm going to do my best to make sure this doesn't happen again. Is there anything I can do to make up for you? The same thing of working hard, for example. Maybe you need to make a certain amount of money in your business, or you needed to show up to a certain goal within the company that you work for. If you didn't hit the goal, the work-in-progress man is very, very comfortable with saying, I didn't hit the goal, but I'll try harder next time. You don't overly identify with any particular moral value that you hold to the detriment of realizing when you've stepped out of that moral value. You don't artificially become the principle and then develop a shadow blind spot to any of your behaviors which are outside of the principle. Hopefully this has illustrated enough of the point. To go from the moral hypocrite to the work-in-progress individual is a liberating psychological moment. You finally get to drop the guard. You get to be well-principled. Your ethical life is more or less mirrored in your material life. Your relationships are a reflection of what you believe is right, what you believe is good, and what you don't do because you believe it is wrong. And if you step onto the side of immorality, if you step onto laziness or lying or just generally being a less than ideal man based on your ideals, you'll get yourself back on the path. Whereas unfortunately many of the fathers that we grew up with, they wouldn't admit their weakness because they believed that they couldn't admit just a fraction of weakness. Imagine this is the middle point to going into a weak energy. This is a strong energy. They couldn't admit psychologically that they had fallen over here because they were so ungrounded that even though they'd only gone slightly over into weakness, they mentally perceived that they had swung all the way, and if they would possibly admit that they were even slightly weak, all of their power, all of their control would come crumbling down. And it's just not true, unless you've genuinely done something which is catastrophically weak or catastrophically evil. Most of us aren't talking about things like this, but, as a general principle, that's how to break the paradigm. So far in this video, we've gone from people pleaser to the kind king, we've gone from the tough guy bully to the well-boundaried warrior, now we've gone from the moral hypocrite into the work in progress. The final of the 4 archetypes for this video is the grumbling loser into Mr. Follow Through. The grumbling loser could also be called the complaining victim. This is the kind of father who is drinking on the sofa, always complaining about how the boss is out to get him, society's out to get him, the religion's out to get him, whatever it might be. There's some factor out there which is personally attacking him, and he's going to vocalize it. He's not going to stay silent about it, but he's not going to do anything to change it. It's always somebody else's fault. You have witnessed those moments where he is grumbling, he is complaining, he's bad-mouthing, he's gossiping, and yet he still remains on the sofa, he still remains out at the bar, he is grumbling, and he is a loser. It's very unfortunate. The challenge here psychologically is that a man who's caught in this paradigm, and some of us can get there from time to time. I know that I've been in places where I'm complaining about the situation to my friend, and my friend said to me, "Look, Jordan, you can solve this. Why are you complaining?" I'm like, of course. I can just respond to that message. I can just do something in my business. I can just have that difficult conversation with someone who's close to me. I can solve it. That's a progression from the grumbling loser to Mr. Follow Through. If you find yourself articulating a complaint, firstly, understand, is that complaint a generalization or is it actually true? Is the government really out to get you, targeting you in particular? Is your boss really out to get you? Is your wife really such a piece of you-know-what? Maybe that's true, but also the generalization needs to become very specific. If you can get specific about your complaints, you can then get specific about the actions that you need to take to resolve the complaint. The healed, truly healed man is Mr. Follow Through, because Mr. Follow Through isn't immune to the attacks of the world. He takes the hits. He'll articulate the hit, but then he's got enough self-esteem and willpower and enough resource to be able to make a change so that, God forbid, and God willing, God forbid it happens again, God willing it wouldn't happen for too long, he can make the change. This is true whether you are looking at a man or a woman making a change. Gossiping and complaining is such a low level of consciousness because it fundamentally traps you in victimhood. And you need not be trapped in victimhood. As I mentioned earlier, the 14 values from Abraham Maslow in Self Actualisation Psychology. Please read the books I've recommended. Just this final moment here to wrap things together. Why I'm bringing out Abraham Maslow for authentic self on the fake father paradigm. It's because authenticity is key. And the 14 traits of being a self-actualizer are all traits of being an authentic person. I will read them again, slowly. Please filter through the highest possibilities of the 4 archetypes I've represented. Again, just from the top. The kind king, the well-boundaried warrior, the work in progress, and Mr. Follow Through. Do they have these 14 traits? These 14 values, are they important to this kind of man? Wholeness, perfection, completion, justice, aliveness, richness, simplicity, beauty, goodness, uniqueness, effortlessness, playfulness, truth, and self-sufficiency. I would say that the healthy man, the healthy father figure, more or less follows those 14 traits of self-actualization, which are further expanded in the farther reaches of human nature, and I would even say that Abraham Maslow got towards some of this himself. He's not a perfect man. You can read this fantastic biography. This is the best biography by Edward Hoffman on the subject of Maslow's life. This is merely the start of your journey for healing your relationship with the inauthentic and fake parental figure. If you've been thinking about your mother throughout this video rather than your father, thank you for still following along. I know it's not the same language to substitute a male fatherly archetypal paradigm into a female archetypal paradigm, but I've specifically tried to give 4 examples that aren't too gendered. The moral hypocrite to the work in progress could completely be a mother or a grandmother figure, so could the grumbling loser into Mrs. Follow-Through rather than Mr. Follow-Through. This has been the third of 4 videos in my 4-part mini-series on overcoming the fear that you were raised in. You can see episodes 201, 202, 203, and 204 on my channel if you click down there. I'm in the white vest to make it really clearly distinguished. If you liked what I spoke about here, why not obliterate your fear that you were raised in the world of money, the world of God, and also the world of relationships? I will see you over on those other videos. I will likewise see you in the comment section with your story. And if you're still around and haven't clicked off the video, guess what I do every single Sunday inside my private group coaching community? It's called the Shadow Work Library. We talk about themes like this week in, week out, and I've just updated the community to have the whole year's worth of Sundays being calls every single week. 90-minute high-level seminars. It feels like a mixture between a master's environment and also high-level group coaching and group therapeutic work. We have spoken about these subjects at length, which is why I'm inspired to take this topic in this particular direction. We've had members sharing about their particular father wounds and how to heal into higher integrity men and women and not follow in the footsteps of the broken, battered, traumatized, and out of integrity father. This is what I'm doing as a privilege and a pleasure in leading my group of people in the Shadow Work Library, over 115 members. It is going to be one of the best investments you can make in yourself this year, because it might be the difference between breaking the old paradigm and getting into the new paradigm, not just through me, but through 36 of the books that I share inside the Shadow Work Library curriculum. You can find out more of the information down below. I'd love to see you there. I keep forgetting to promote my services in these videos, but you get the idea. If you're around for this long, you probably will like what we're talking about inside. I'll see you in the description. I'll see you on next screen, next video, screen video. One take is tough, I tell you what, but guess over here. Over here, I've refreshed. That's on the same topic, more or less. I'll see you over there.